Okay, so as you can see, we have a sample data set in this basic example. Um, we have a data set involving continuous values. Like when I say continuous, these are mostly based on measurements or um, numbers with somewhat like decimal points, right? So mostly non-terminating or rational or just values, any specific values, right? So we um just remember, measurements are normally or typically continuous values. Whereas we have things like counts or like our categorical values, the frequencies of our categorical values can be represented as discrete values. Okay, so we can actually conduct statistical tests with our categorical values only if we convert them into their or if we represent them with certain discrete values like the counts. So counting numbers, right? So first let's talk about this one, the continuous data. So here we are concerned with two variables, two sets of values. One that is continuous and the other one is more on discrete. Okay, but this doesn't mean that it is ordinal because this is request per second, meaning we are counting. So this is considered numerical, not ordinal. Okay, so um to understand that, let's proceed with this one. First, we it will be best to generate their respective descriptive stat. Okay, so by the way, they are already sorted based on their request ID, so we skip that part. But if you want to sort it according to response time, by the way, it's I think it will be best to create or to format this as a table first. So highlight the entire data set and then go to insert table. Although there are shortcuts for this, but this is the manual or the beginner way to do this. So we are asked if we have the correct range. So from A1 up to C501. So let's see if we have until C501. Okay, as you can see, our data set is until C, column C, row 501. So enter. And now we have this default format of the table. I'll change that to this one. Okay. So now we can choose to sort our data set in terms of response time from smallest to largest. As you can see, they had been automatically sorted from um, smallest response time in terms of milliseconds up to the largest. Okay, so but without okay. So also you can do so in terms of requests per second. So you can let's choose largest to smallest. So largest to smallest, as you can see, the largest requests per second that we have is 8. So 8, 7, and so on. Okay. So that's our data set. All right. You can organize or you can also remove. For example, you don't want anything below 140. So everything below 140 can be filtered out. Okay. So as you can see, we only have these values. Okay. And if you sort that, the lowest would be 140 plus. All right. So 143. Okay, so that's basically sort and filter. You can filter by unchecking and checking the items here. Okay, and there are many other things that you can explore here, right? So for now, what our goal is um to check whether the data is normal. this data set is normal, and if we can do some parametric statistical tests. Okay, so it will be best to conduct first the descriptive stat. Okay, so if you already have your data, anyway, we're going to feature this in the intro video. If you already have the data analysis tool here, click that to open this box and look for descriptive stat. Again, uh, date, um, data analysis. Look for descriptive stat here. So descriptive stat, click OK. And then at the input range, click input the box here. And then we're going to select only the response time. So let's include the header. So from the top, just hold Control Shift down. Okay. And then it is per group. Okay. What if we do this? Okay, so let's do this one by one. Okay, so since I included the first or the header, okay, the first row as the header, so I have to check this one. All right. Then for the output, I want it to appear here, not on a different worksheet or different file. I should select this one, output range. Okay, output range, and then click the box before you can select a specific cell. So I want it to appear here. So I select this cell, and then don't forget to pick summary statistics, and then click OK. So instantly we have our descriptive stat. No need for manual formula for the mean, standard error, median, and so on. Okay, although we're going to use some formula later. Okay, so we're going to use this. We might going to use this in our um, distribution table in a while. Okay, so that's for the response time. And if we want the descriptive stat also for the request per second, then we should do the same process. Go to Data tab and then open Data Analysis. Look for descriptive stat. Okay, select and click OK. And then we erase this first to avoid confusion and select our new data set, which is this one up to here. So still it is in terms of column because it's one column. And then since we included the header in the first row, then this should be tick also. And then we have the output range. We have to replace this with a new one. Okay, I want it to appear here. And then summary statistics, and then put OK. Okay. Okay, so let's fix this. Just select the columns, and then if you see this, if once your cursor turns into this sign, and then you can double click that to automatically adjust the columns. Okay, so now we have our descriptive stat for these two columns of our data set. For me, I think I do this. Okay, move it to this one. Uh, okay, and then I can get rid of and auto adjust again, and then get rid of the redundant parts. Okay, now we have the mean for the two columns and so on. Right. So you can have this as your data summary already. And now if we are going deeper, especially if we want to make sure that our data set is normal, okay, meaning it's safe to use a parametric statistical test, then we create our distribution table. But in programming in Python, I think this is automatically done. Um, okay, so now for this table, we can have, since we are dealing with discrete values, we can list down all the possible values. Instead, we copy. Okay, I'll bring it to the original um, sorting. Okay, so instead we copy the actual values here. That's when we do normal distribution. So we copy the actual values, okay, for as our the values of our x or our observations. Okay, we can minimize the decimal points to make them look more presentable. Okay, so it's up to you. So now we have the P of X, meaning the PDF or the probability density function our um of each of our observation or value of X. So meaning since we are dealing with normal distribution, then we use the formula norm dot least, okay, for normal distribution, wherein we are asked to input some of these values. Okay, so we have X, that's our observation. So we click that. And then we are asked for the mean. So we click the mean. But since we're going to use the formula later for the other rows, then after clicking the mean, you click F4, function 4, or Fn plus F4. It depends on your computer setting. Again, either F4 or Fn plus F4. Okay? Or you can manually type the dollar signs as you can see here. Right? So that means whether if we reuse this formula later for the other rows, we are still referring to the same cell, okay, which is for our mean. Okay. By the way, what the table that we are doing right now is for this first one, response time. Okay. And then we have the standard deviation. So standard deviation is right here. Okay. Also, um, click F4 or Fn plus F4 to add the dollar signs. Okay. And lastly, we are asked whether we are looking for the cumulative or not. Okay, cumulative function or not. Since we are looking for the PDF, then we choose false. Okay, or I think it should be PMF, probability mass function. Uh, okay, so once I enter, we already have the corresponding PMF or PDF for our first observation. Okay. Um, Now we have the normalized PDF later. We're going to do that later. So for this one, CDF, the cumulative distribution function, we use the same formula actually, norm that is, and then we still have the same x, and then the mean, okay, the mean, and then fn plus f4, comma, standard deviation, this one, fn plus f4, comma, and then cumulative. So true or false. This time we want it to be cumulative. So since we are looking for the CDF, okay? So true and then okay. So this is an example of an Excel formula, by the way. Okay, and the function that we use is norm that this, which stands for normal distribution. Okay. Now for the normalized PDF and normalized CDF, basically they are just the values divided by the sum of all the PDFs that we have. Okay, so this is just equal to this one divided by the sum. Okay, we use the sum function of values from this cell up to, okay, the one at the bottom. Okay, we have 501, I think. Oh no, it's too long. I should have known. Right, almost there. So here, okay, until here. Okay, row 501. And then, okay, we have a typo. I think because I don't have yet the closing parenthesis. But if I accept this, then no problem. Okay, we have the normalized PDF as this one. Right now, don't mind that because we only have um one value for now. That's why it's just one. But later on, it will change as we input the values for the other rows. Okay, so the same formula for we're going to copy this for this one. Okay, so this value divided by the sum of all the values here. Okay, so uh, enter, and still it's also one. Now, for the other rows, just select the first one and then highlight until the bottom. Okay, and voila, we have our values. Um, okay, so we have the normalized PDF up to the last one. Okay, I think the last one is this. No, right. Okay, so let me double check. Okay, I was wrong. Undo. Okay. We have to um highlight this and then include dollar signs. Okay, so F4, just put F4 or FN plus F4. Okay. Same thing here. Okay, let me pause for a while. Okay, so we do the same for this one. We fix the formula. So highlight, just highlight the range, and then click F4 or FN plus F4, okay, to add the dollar signs. So that when we drag them, the range will not change. Okay, so drag up to the last one. All right. I'm not sure why do we have missing a few missing values. Maybe I was not able to include some of them. Or maybe I have a filter. Select all. Okay. Oh, this one. Select all. Okay, and another. Right. So, see again. Okay, doesn't match. Maybe I was not able to include some cells earlier because of the filter. I forgot the filter. Anyway, we have now the PMF or the PDF and then the CDF for the response time data set. Okay, now we can plot the distribution for that. So here we just highlight everything. Okay, we no need. I think no need to include the header. And then we insert. Ideally, we insert only. Um, but before we do that, I forgot. We have to sort. We sort these data set. So again, let's format this table. Okay, let's structure this as a table. Insert table and then confirm. So that it will be easier for us. But I don't like the design. Again, design. Right. So we choose, we sort um, from smallest to highest in terms of P of X. Right. So now, now that it has been sorted, we can now plot. So I just select all the values and then plot, what do you call this one? Uh, column chart. All right. So as you can see, we have our, okay, let me do that. Let me redo that. Okay. So from here up to, or let's have this one. Okay. Uh, okay. So I just moved the chart here, right? As you can see, we have this kind of distribution. This is not yet what we are looking for. Maybe because right now we are I forgot. We should sort it instead according to the x values, the observation itself, not the p of x. So we sort it, and as you can see, we have this result. We have this distribution, right? So it's not really bell-shaped, but as you can see, this is symmetric. So it appears to be normal already. It's almost normal. And um, for, um, the problem is if you look at our descriptive stat, let me highlight this. Okay, the mean, no, no, that's not. Mean, median, and mode. All right. The problem is because we have a very high mode, a very different value compared to the mean and the median. Okay, so this is somewhat affects the normality of our distribution. Okay, but if we that is only that was only possible because um, maybe it has been a coincidence, but uh, more likely this is an error in my data set itself. Okay, as you can see, it has been doubled. But if I'll change this one into 400.01, you'll see that we'll come up with a better, a more okay. And we do the descriptive stat again. We redo the stat. Okay, I'll just overwrite it here. And as you can see, we have the mean, median, and mode still 400.01. Okay, because I used the no, 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 not again. Data analysis. Instead, we should use this one, this new data set, and then the same. Okay, it will overwrite this one. Okay. Now we don't have a mode. All right, so that is better compared to the previous one. Now it is somewhat like a more bell-shaped compared to the previous one because right now we have the mean, the median, and the mode. Um, okay, since we don't have the mode, we can see the mean and median very close to each other. Right? So in continuous data, it is just normal to have no mode. Okay, if you, for example, the values happen to be exactly the same, even up to the smallest decimal point, um, then that's the time that you can have a mode. Okay, when you have at least one, I mean at least two of these to have exactly the same figures up to the very last decimal place, then that's the only time we can have mode. So again, it's normal to have no mode in continuous data. Um, so we normally look at the mean and the median only, right? So the mean and median are very close to each other. So that's a good sign that our data set is normal. Okay, but in more professional or higher level of statistical analysis, there are other more advanced, more complicated statistical techniques being used to check the normality of our distribution. But what we have right now is a basic way to do it. Okay. Now let's see what does our um, normalized distribution look like. Okay, so we highlight everything here and then insert um, column chart. So as you can see, it's almost the same. Okay, so they're almost the same. Um, all right, they're almost the same, but the main difference, I think, okay, it's smoother compared to the non-normalized one, and the sum is okay. If you take the sum of all of these, okay, let's take the sum using the formula sum. Okay, sum of all the numbers from the top up to the bottom. Okay, and then enter, and you have the sum also for uh, the rest. Okay, so as you can see, the sum for our normalized distribution is always 1. Okay, but all right, that's all we can say for now. Right, uh, that's regarding distribution, of course. Just we want to make sure that our data is normal before we can proceed with our statistical tests or parametrical statistical tests. Uh, Now, another thing we can do is um, let's say we want to compare. For some reasons, we want to compare 1 to 250 and 251 to 500. Okay, so let's highlight. Let's select this 1 to 250. All right. So there are many ways to do this, but what I'm doing right now is the manual version. Okay. So I'll paste it somewhere here. So we have a new data set, or I'll paste it as a value. So right click this one, okay, to remove the formatting. Let's say we paste it on the second one. All right. So then we do the same for 251. Okay, just Control Shift down, right, Control up to go back, and then go here. So the same way we right click and paste as values. Okay, so let's name this as group A and group B. And for example, we want to conduct a comparative test between the two. Okay, we want to see if there's a significant difference between the mean of group A and group B. So we can use z-test, t-test, or it depends, or maybe we can use ANOVA. So if we choose z-test or t-test, let's go to data analysis. So we're going to conduct a two-sample t-test, whether this is a paired or a two-sample, assuming equal or unequal variances. Let's say we are assuming equal. Okay. So variable range 1 is this one. Okay. We include the header. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure why they're not the same. So I'll just remove this for demonstration purposes so that they can have equal number of data points. Something's wrong with my numbering, I think. Right. Anyway, so click this one and then select your first column, including the header. Then do the same for the other one. Click and then select that column. Okay, we are hypothesizing that there's no significant difference. Therefore, the hypothesized mean difference should be 0 because there's no significant difference. That's our null hypothesis, by the way. And since we included the header, then we click labels. And our default significance level is 0.05 or our alpha. So if we're going to use the p-value later, then we're going to check, compare it with the alpha. Okay, so now for the output, I want it to appear somewhere here. Okay, so once done, then okay. Right now we have the z-test, the t-test for these two groups. Okay, and we have these values, but the most important one is this t-test. I mean t-stat, or assuming we are doing a two-tailed test. So we compare the t-stat with our um, um, critical value for two tails. Okay, for a two-tailed test. So if we're going to plot this from the limits would be from negative 1.96, and then we have here negative 1, and then 0 at the center, and then positive 1, and positive 1.96. So this we're going to have our distribution. I think I can draw here. Okay, so assuming we have this, oh, okay, we're not going to do again the distribution. That's why I'm doing it, writing it manually. Uh-huh. How do I draw? All right. So we have no. We have to select the pen. Right. So we have this. Assuming this is right. I don't know what happened. Okay. Again. So we have this, and then I don't know. Anyway, assuming we have these limits, sorry for that. I forgot how to use the drawing tool. Maybe we have the limits here or the left. Okay. So negative 1.96, and then in between we have 0. Okay, so we have the negative side and the positive side. So our t-stat falls or is equals to negative 0.079. So negative 0.079 is somewhere here. Okay, so meaning if this is our entire acceptance range, and our t-stat falls somewhere here, then it falls within the acceptance range. Okay? And meaning we fail to reject the null hypothesis. So, meaning it's not true that there is no significant difference. What's true is there is a significant difference between the two groups. Okay? So there is a significant difference. And to further prove that, we check the p-value. Okay? So the p-value is 0.42. Okay? Um, and we have remember we had the alpha earlier. Our alpha is 0.05. Okay, 0.05. But so the height here is around 0.05. At the limit, that's 0.05. So the height, remember, just imagine the height here. Uh, if I were able to draw the normal curve. So the height here is 0.05, and our t-stat is somewhere here, and the height is around 0.42. So even if we don't know the critical values, we can still determine whether it has fall within the acceptance region if the height is higher than 0.05. Okay, or the p-value. So the p-value is 0.42 is higher than 0.05. Okay, 0.042 is somewhere here. 0.05 is somewhere here. So it's uh imagine the curve, the normal curve here. So if we plot 0.05 is somewhere here, 0.42 is somewhere here. And the highest, the peak is almost 1. Okay? It's impossible to reach 1 actually in a normal distribution. Okay? Because the sum of all areas, if we sum together all the areas, it's always equals to 1. Right? So that's a basic inferential stat using t-test in Excel. One more thing we can do what we can do, I think, correlation with this. Okay, so we have two numerical variables. Correlation can only be done if you have two numerical variables. So we can test if there's a significant relationship between the response time and the request per session. So let's see if we can we say that if we have shorter response time, can we have less requests per second? Or is it the other way around? So assuming this is our independent variable and this is our dependent variable. So let's see, just for demonstration purposes, we use data analysis to conduct correlation. So let's look for, um, yes, we have correlation here. Yep. Okay. So correlation, and then select the input range from here. Okay, we select the two columns. Okay, column B and column C. Okay, up to the last row. So the grouping is per column. Okay, what our variable is group per column. So we check column, and then we included the labels. So we must check this one. And then the output, I want the output to appear somewhere here. Okay, but I have to check the box first. So I want it to appear here. So, and then once done, or maybe we have it somewhere here. Okay, and then click OK. So as you can see, okay, we can disregard the ones. Okay, what we want to see here is this one. This is our Pearson's R value, wherein you can manually compute that using Corel. Okay, and then we have the two variables. Okay, we have this one, these two. Okay, just select them and enter. Oh, too few arguments. I forgot the. Okay, we just select one by one. Okay, so again, so I select. Okay, no, sorry. So equals Corel, and then array one and array two. Okay, so array one. Let's have the response time as array one. Control Shift down and then column, comma, I mean. And then we go back up. Okay. So click the first one and then Control Shift down and then enter. So we have the correlation result, which is the same as the one. So whether you use the data analysis tool or you use simply the Corel function, you end up with the same R coefficient. So this is the value of R, which ranges from 0 to 1. Okay, the closer to 1, the higher the relationship between the two variables. So right now, it's very low. It's approaching 0. Okay, 0.04 is very low. It didn't even reach 0.01. Okay, so it is considered very weak correlation. So almost no, or we can, it's safe to say there's no relationship between the two variables. Okay, it doesn't mean that we have a shorter or longer response time. We can expect a higher or lower number of requests per second. Right, so there's no relationship between the two. Okay. For our comparison earlier, we did t-test maybe this one group A was done by agent or employee number one, and group B was done by agent number two or employee number two. Or maybe eh, group A was done in the morning shift while group B was done in the graveyard shift. Okay, so since earlier the result says there is a significant difference, and as you can see, in terms of mean, uh, the difference there's around zero point 0.2 difference or at least zero point 0.3 difference between the two. Or if you want to get the difference, just use the formula, this one minus this one. Right. So there's a 3.4 49 difference between the two means, and we want to know whether that is significant enough or not. But since we had this result, we concluded earlier that there is a significant difference. So meaning this difference is significant. We can say that since this is response time, we can say that the response time is longer in the graveyard shift compared to the morning shift. Or maybe the response time of employee 2 or employee B is longer compared to the significantly longer compared to the response time of employee A. Okay, so that could be your interpretation for that, right? So these are some of the things that we can do using Excel, okay, regarding numerical or continuous data. Okay, so now when it comes to discrete data, we have let's try to make it quick. In addition to that, here, for example, if we have limited number of options, like um, the the customers choose only from values between 0 to 5. Okay, maybe it's either their options, their selected items, or maybe their rating, the rating that they provide with our services. Okay, for our services. So here we have tested. We tested 5 times. Okay, because if we test only one time, then that could be a Bernoulli type of test or distribution. The distribution that we are going to have is a Bernoulli type. Here we have 5 times. So actually, this is okay, maybe 2 out of 5. So it's like a binomial. This is a binomial distribution. So it's like a yes or no binary option. So for example, in out of 5 clients, 2 of them answered yes. Okay, and the 3 answered no. Okay, that's for the first one. And then the next set we had 5 of them, 5 out of 5. The next 5 out of 5. This one, 0 out of 5. Here, 2 out of 5, and so on. Okay, and we did that test not just once. If we did that once, then that's Bernoulli only. But if we did that 5 times, then we can have a deeper type of test. We can have a binomial distribution instead, right? So discrete, why is it called discrete? Because our values, our excess are limited only. So to do that, one of the ways to find all the possible values is to use the unique function. So unique formula like just type equals unique and so on. But instead, here's I think the easier one. We just look for the minimum and maximum values. Okay, so we use the formula mean, okay, and then just highlight the entire data set. Okay, so don't mind the numbers below. They are I forgot to delete them. Okay, let me delete them. They are our stats. Some standard deviation and the mean. Right? So we don't need that actually for now. Now the minimum number is 0, the minimum value, and the maximum is okay. We use the maximum function and then select the entire data set and enter. So as you can see, the maximum value is 5. Okay, and it so happened we have 5 trials, so our number of trials is 5, and then, or actually it's k. The number of trials is 5, and we set our probability to be zero point 0.5. Okay, so probability yes is point or success is zero point 0.5, the fail is zero point 0.5. Okay, so equal, meaning 50-50 chance. So now we have values from 0 to 5. We can manually type 0 to 5 or just type the first 2 values and drag it downwards. Okay, so now we have values from 0 to 5. And uh, we have the PMF, or the probability mass function for binomial distribution. We just use binom.dist. Okay, so this function is for binomial tests or binomial scenarios. Right? So now we have the number as this value beside, right, the, okay, you can see it. Okay, this value. Okay. So, and then comma, next we are asked for the number of trials. So we select this one. But again, so that we can reuse the formula, we put dollar signs before the letter and the number of the cells. Okay. So either F4 or Fn plus F4, or manually type the dollar signs. Then comma. The next one, probability. So we set the probability as 0.5. We are assuming equal chances of pass and fail. Okay, you can change that if you want. Okay. And lastly, we are asked whether to have cumulative or not. Okay. We want it, okay, since this is PMF, then we set it to false. Okay. So it's not cumulative, meaning it's a probability mass function. So, uh, and then close and enter. Okay. So we have the first one. And then now for the CDF, we use the same formula. We can copy, paste. But of course, we have to change this one with this one. Okay. And then I forgot, sorry, let me do this again. I forgot to put dollar sign in this one. Right. So copy again. Okay. Now, we changed this one, and we have the same K and P. So, but this time it's true because we want it to be cumulative. Right. So now we have the PMF and CDF. We can drag it down. So that's it. We have the distribution table. And then let's see if this looks like a normal distribution. By the way, we should make sure the X values are sorted from lowest to highest or highest to lowest. And then we have here, okay, that's our X values. But if we plot our PMFs, okay, you see we have somewhat like a bell-shaped curve. Okay, or if we use a line graph instead, okay, if we include the label, okay, you see it's somewhat like a bell. Okay, so in this way, we can see, okay, right, we have a normal distribution, or we can consider this as a normal distribution, and that's why we can, uh, it's now safe to use parametric statistical tests as well. Okay, in most cases, of course. Um, Okay, this is something used for some advanced data analysis purposes, but for students, most likely you settle for continuous distribution instead. Okay, but if you consider this to be continuous, then most likely we use the normal dist function. But if we um, are working on discrete values, especially binomial, we can use either the binomial dist function, or can also use the other one, the Poisson, which is quite similar to normal distribution. Okay. So this is if we have um more more possible values but finite. Okay, unlike normal distributions which has infinite possible values. Okay, so I think that would be all. If you want to graph, by the way, for example, you want to um uh check how many zeros, ones, twos, three, and four, and five per trial. So you can do so. Just let's copy this one. Okay. So let's have the frequency or small letter f. All right. So we can use actually the formula count if equals, that is equals count if. it is equals to, okay, for trial 1, um, just highlight everything, and then as you can see, comma, we write comma, and then the criteria. Criteria is the value beside it. Okay. So again, if you want to reuse this range, we're going to use the formula later. We put dollar sign. Okay. So now that's for this one. Right. By the way, this is for trial 1. So these are the F for each trial, right, the frequencies. And so you do the same for trial 2 and so on. Okay. So just use count if, or maybe you can uh, recycle this formula. Right. So instead of column A, we now have column B. So just replace A with B. And I think, um, okay, that's good. Okay, so uh, for trial C, we have column C. Oh, sorry for that. Okay, and then for trial 4, we have column D, and trial 5, we have column E. Okay, so as you can see, um it's uh it's faster compared to manually doing this, right? So let's check if each has a total of how many. Uh, I think 200 number of observations. So let's see. Let's take the sum of each. Right. So as you can see, it's all 200. Right. Now we can um what do you call that? We can create a pie chart for this. So highlight and then look for pie chart. Okay, this one. I select one. Right. Now for trial 1, we have this um sorry, trial 1. Okay, we have this distribution. So you can select other formats here that you want. It's up to you, right? So something like that. And you can do the same for trial 2. For trial 2, just highlight these two and then insert chart, line chart, right? So if you can't remember um the formatting style that you use for the first one, just click this one and then use Format Painter. Okay, and then click the new one. Okay, but it's not working. So okay, just figure it out, just explore and do the same for the other trials. Okay, this is if you want to see the difference between the different trials. Okay, so it's up to you. It depends on what actually you are looking for, right? So for basic high school statistical tests, I think the ones we discussed earlier are good enough to complete your research. Um, for more advanced, then you can explore some more advanced concepts like probability distributions. Okay. Anyway, these are all of this requires data cleaning at the beginning, and then data organizing by using sorting, filtering, and even summarizing features, of course, with the help of formula and functions. Right? So that's all for this demo. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have learned something. And for the last one, we're going to have a video for the pivot table. Okay, so I'm not going to discuss that. Kindly watch the YouTube video that we have. All right, so let's watch it.